Okay, the reason why my camera is on the right side instead of the left is so y'all can see this shit. So, welcome to my unoriginal and probably dog shit opinions, but they're at least not as shit as the ones I've seen on YouTube. My friend James has sent me quite a few of these Avenged Sevenfold tier lists, and I want to throw my dick and balls into the mix and show how mines are bigger and your opinions fucking suck. So as you can see, from S to I think that's D, we got creamin' and screamin'. I'd wank to this one. They ain't peaking just yet. I mean, it's alright. Like, overrated as fuck, in my opinion. Wiping my shithole with this one, and bad. I'm doing Avenged Sevenfold for this one. I believe I've done a similar. Well, I haven't done a tier list, but I've done a Panic at the Disco song ranking, where I rank all of their songs in the discography. That video is very outdated now. Uh, not only in the opinions, but there's a whole new album out. Well, it's their last, but I felt like doing a tier list so I can throw in my opinion that I don't think anyone's gonna give a shit about, but fuck it, we ball. So the first album is I don't know if this is the first one that I listened to, cause when I was first getting into Avenged, my bands or my friends were the ones who recommended me to Avenged, and I didn't know where to start with. So from my recollection, I started with the White Album, but I know either before that or soon after that I listened to Sounding of the Seventh Trumpet. I did not like it. Not at all. Not in the slightest. I think it's because metalcore isn't really my thing. The only metalcore band I can really think of that I like is Ice Nine Kills. But on top of that, I can't really think of any metalcore band that I like. So, so on top of melodic metalcore, just metalcore in general, not really being too hugely my thing. Now, this isn't saying I don't like all melodic metalcore. I'm sure there is some albums that I just can't think of off the top of my head. And I really do like Ice Nine Kills. But there are two redeemable songs off this album. I can't. One of them has the word "dreams" in there, shatter of broken dreams, and I think it's "Streets." I can't remember off the top of my head. Those are like the only two things that is keeping it in bad. But I'm gonna throw that one and wiping my shithole with this one, cause I just don't like it. I'm gonna be honest. This is kind of getting into Wake in the Fallen. I don't really like Matt's growled vocals. He is a way better clean vocalist than he is a unclean vocalist with all the growls and stuff. I never really cared for his growls. Now, getting into Wake in the Fallen, they get the job done, but I think it would have been a much better album if all he did was sing. I know even Matt got tired of fucking screaming, and that's why they're barely in any other album. Like, there's some screaming in, well, not really in Hail to the King and The State. Oh, I just realized Life is But a Dream ain't on here. Shit. Alright, fuck it. Shit, fuck. I'll have to just throw that one in myself. But, but I don't really care for Matt's screams. Now, the instrumentals for Wake in the Fallen is on top. But this is the only Avenged Sevenfold album where I think the length of it really does kill it. There is some songs on here that I felt like could have been... Come in? Okay. There are some songs on this album that I felt like could have been way shorter. Or at least it would have made the album much... Or at least the shorter runtime would have made the album better. And this... Honestly, it's like the only Avenged Sevenfold album that I feel like has an issue with how long it is. Like, there's some songs here and there from, like, an album or so that I felt like could have been shorter. But Wake in the Fallen is really just, like, where every song kind of feels a little longer than needed. So, it's definitely a good album. The singing is on top. The riffs are on top. Unholy Confessions, Discreet Before Revenants, I Won't See You Tonight, both parts. I'm trying to think. I can't think of Second Heartbeat. Some really good songs. I'ma put it in B tier. They ain't peaking just yet. There's some issues with the album. Just I feel like that there's some issues that could have been honed over. They were pretty young. This is pretty young in their songwriting career. So give it some slack. It's definitely good, but I don't like revisit it too often. Now we have City of Evil. City of Evil is fucking great. Beast and the Harlot. I'm pretty okay. Thinking about it, the only like two songs that I'm not balls over crazy for is Burn It Down and Seize the Day. Those are the only two songs that I'm not like super crazy for. But like my favorite songs, Beast and the Harlot, Trashed and Scattered is one of their best songs. Sidewinder is really fucking good. Missing in Action, MIA, all really fucking good songs. Some of the best in their discography. Blinded in Chains was like one of my favorites when I first listened to it. And these are all just like peak Avenged Sevenfold. I wouldn't say this is their peak album though, but it's just such a good album. The fucking guitar tone, the lessing of the screaming, and more, like the screams when they were there, they landed it. And I'm so happy that Matt wasn't screaming for all of this album. This is definitely one I'd bust. I've busted quite a few nuts to this album. Fucking great album. Just the goddamn solos, just everything was on point. But there are some issues with the run times of some of the songs. Some of it deals with like the chorus repeats one too many times, and or the solos kind of drag on. But I don't really have an issue like even like the longest song of the album, Missing in Action. I feel like that song was just perfectly timed. It was just so well progressive that it like the time was just very useful, I guess. I'm having trouble thinking of words. That's some of my problems with some of the songs, especially on Waken the Fallen, is the songs aren't really progressive, and sometimes they get a little too repetitive. But that, honestly, they kind of ditch the repetitiveness in these later albums. City Evil has some issues with being a little repetitive, but the runtimes are a lot more ironed out, so there's a lot more happening within the runtime. Like Sidewinder, for example, there's like an extra minute 30 of an outro, and it's like this beautiful fucking guitar playing, and it's really fucking good. And Missing in Action has this like minute, 2 minute intro that's this really somber, kind of distraught tune. And I'm sure there's more that I can't think of off the top of my head. Get some fucking hair out of my face. But yeah, I don't have as many issues with the runtime with City Evil as I did with Waken the Fallen, because it definitely feels like the songwriting was, I guess, more mature, so they were throwing more stuff in to fill in that runtime to make it feel more justified than Waken the Fallen's. So the next album is We Got This self-titled, and I mean, I got nothing to say. The only one song that I still really like, but I just don't really revisit is Gunslinger. Everything else on this fucking album is simply peak. Critical acclaim, almost easy. Scream. I'm having stupid. I drank a lot from the stupid soup, so I'm fucking not remembering shit. Unbound the Wild Ride, Lost. Low Piece of Heaven, Dear God. I definitely missed a song, but fuck it. It's just such a good album. Just everything is on point. I don't know how to really talk about this album because I just don't really have anything bad to say about it. Gunslinger, which I'm not like the hugest fan of, but I still think it's a pretty good song. I don't know. It's just like a really good song. I remember when I was first getting into Avenged, and A Little Piece of Heaven was definitely the song that really brought me in. But Avenged Sevenfold was the band that got me into metal, and especially got me into listening to longer songs that were progressive. So A Little Piece of Heaven took me some time to actually get into, because I wasn't prepared for whatever the fuck A Little Piece of Heaven is, and Little Piece of Heaven is still their best song ever. But it's just I don't know. A Little Piece of Heaven was definitely the song that brought me into Avenged Sevenfold. And it took me some time to really get into A Little Piece of Heaven, because of I just wasn't used to those kinds of run times. I wasn't used to 8-minute songs, and I certainly wasn't used to whatever the fuck is happening in that song, because A Little Piece of Heaven is tits fucking wild. There's no denying that. But White Album is their best album of all time. One of my favorite albums of all time. My friends will have me listen to that album with them, because either it'll be the first time or they want to re-listen it to give it a better rating. And I'm usually there for the ride all the time to re-listen to the White Album, because it's so fucking good. The next album we got is Nightmare. Everyone knows, or at least anyone who's anyone who has any basic knowledge of Avenged Sevenfold knows that this is the album that is mostly a tribute to their drummer, the Rev, who passed away from an overdose. And I feel like that may have. Well, okay. The lyrics are really good on this album. I think this may be some of Avenged Sevenfold's best lyrics. Because it hits so close to home, especially if you have lost someone close to you in a loved one like I have. So some of these lyrics definitely hit close to you. But there's also some of their best songwriting on here. I'm talking Nightmare, Welcome to the Family, Danger Line, and Buried Alive. Those 4 songs, back to back, fucking just banger after banger after banger after banger. It's fucking insane how fucking good those 4 songs back to back are. Avenged Sevenfold always had, like, the best intro songs, like White Album, Critical Acclaim, City Evil has Beast and the Harlot. I don't exactly remember. I'm pretty sure Wake in the Fawn is Unholy Confessions, but forgive me if I'm wrong. And then Nightmare has Nightmare, which is easily one of their best songs. It's like the vocals on this album too were really good. To me, this is definitely Matt's vocal peak, or I guess it's pretty tied with Self-Titled, but this is definitely like Matt's vocal peak and kind of tied in with White Album, but I feel like that they're pretty much tied. Although I will say there are a few songs on here that I'm not too, like, I don't keep on repeat too often. Victim is a little kind of whiplashy, I'd say. God Hates Us. No, God Hates Us was pretty good. I was misremembering. I can't think. So Far Away, I know that's like... So Far Away is pretty good, actually. No, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about the songs. I'm like, wait, no, that is pretty good. But Victim, I'm not huge on. There's another one that I can't think of off the top of my head. I don't have, like, the track listing up. I know Save Me I do like, although that is one of their songs that I do think is a little bloated with the runtime. But it was their longest song, which is pretty cool. But I'm gonna put this one, and I'd wank to this one. It's very fucking good. It's definitely, like, if you're just getting into Avenged Sevenfold and you're looking for an album, I'd personally recommend either the White Album or Nightmare. Maybe not City Evil, because it can be a little iffy if you're just getting into Avenged Sevenfold, especially with some of the longer runtimes. But like White Album and Nightmare are like the two perfect albums to recommend someone. Now we have Hail to the King, and this is probably going to be one of my most controversial takes, so fuck it, I'm going to just get out of the way with. I really love Hail to the King. Now, granted, I think that some of Avenged Sevenfold's best song in here. We have self-titled track, Hail to the King, Doing Time, Heretic, Acid Rain, just... like, those 4 songs are just some of Avenged Sevenfold's best songs, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for that opinion. And it's weird, too, because I don't have a huge background when it comes to just straight heavy metal, hard rock music. Like, because I know this album takes a lot of influences from the Black Album by Metallica, and a lot of older heavy metal in general, like Guns N' Roses especially. More bands that I can't think of off the top of my head, but just a lot of classic heavy metal that goes back to from the 70s, 80s, and 90s is where this album takes a lot of inspiration from, a lot of that blues rock, I guess. And I find it weird because I'm not, like, crazy head over heels for that type of music either. So I found it especially interesting how Hail to the King pretty much immediately became one of my favorite Avenged Sevenfold albums, even on my first listen. There are a couple songs I'm not crazy on, like Planets. Planets is kind of a skip. Crimson Rain is alright, kind of. Acid Rain is the better symphonic song on the album. And I can't think of the other song, because I know I am forgetting. I know I haven't mentioned Shepherd of Fire. Shepherd of Fire is really good too. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Avenged Sevenfold songs, but it's definitely a highlight of the album. And I know that song was made for Black Ops, I believe, or they gave it to Black Ops, one of the two. I can't think of the other song off the top of my head. But I don't know, just some of their best songs in general. I know a lot of people thought that this album was very a lot of people thought that this album was just straight up plagiarizing, but, like, I've listened to a good chunk of Metallica and some of the older 80s metal, and I can see that criticism, but it just feels I don't know. It feels like a remaster essentially in some weird essence to me. But yeah. Oh, and the St. James track that for some reason didn't make it to the main version of the album. St. James is also a fucking banger, and I will forever be upset that it did not make it to the main version of this album. So yeah, just one of my favorite Avenged Sevenfold albums. Oh, I should state, City Evil is like a border. Like if there was a fine tie, or if there was a fine B.5 tier or whatever, or like I think what 1, 2, 3, whatever, like a 2 point whatever the fuck. If there was a fine like in between, I would totally put City Evil there. But I feel more confident putting it into this one than this one, because there are some moments. But now we have the stage. This one also may be controversial, but I do really like the stage. I can see why a lot of people say that this is when Avenged Sevenfold came back, or this is when their peak was, or like their peak songwriting, and I get that. But there's like fucking Creating God is probably my least favorite Avenged Sevenfold song to date. Well, I mean, I'm sure that there's something off of Sounding of a Seventh Trumpet that tops Creating God for my least favorite Avenged song. But Creating God is the one that comes to mind first. But Creating God is the only major dud on this album. Fucking, the title track, the stage. I can't fucking think of the goddamn name, and it's such a good song. Shit, hang on, I gotta look it up real quick. Give me a second. The stage. Sunny Disposition. That's the only song I have on my playlist. That is bullshit. I gotta re-listen to the stage. Sunny Disposition. That is also one of my favorite Avenged Sevenfold songs. I love that fucking chorus. That chorus is so fucking good. But this is also when Matt's vocals started declining. And you can hear him straining his vocals sometimes, especially in the stage. It kind of sounds like he's straining his vocals. And that may be why it's not one of my favorites. And that may be what kind of bumps it down a little bit. Is Matt's vocals certainly isn't as good as it was in Hail to the King or in Nightmare. And this probably just came with using his vocals so much and also getting older. So... And you can hear it in the next album that isn't on here, but I'm too lazy to find another tier list. But, yeah, and there's just some kind of forgettable songs, like, off the top of my head, Higher, the track listing is kind of forgettable. There is Exist. Exist is also pretty good. For being a 15-minute song, I do fuck with Exist pretty good. It's a pretty damn good song. And it's just, like, the track listing is kind of forgettable. And, like, I remember some of the song's names, but I don't remember how the song itself goes. So, yeah, good album, definitely on par with Waken the Fallen, and I know I'm gonna get some flack for that one. But next album, which I'm gonna be honest, I haven't listened to this. I know that's, like, it's, like, a bunch of covers, and some demos, and songs that didn't make it to full albums. So that's why I haven't really gone out of my way to listen to everything. I know I have listened to all the stuff that didn't make it to albums, and the only one that I really remember was St. James. But, so I'm just gonna skip that one, and I don't have it, but Life is But a Dream, that's out, and I'm definitely putting it to I'd Wink to this one. I remember when Nobody came out. I remember when I first listened to Nobody, and honestly, I didn't really like it at first. Nobody just wasn't my cup of tea at first, but Nobody is definitely one of the songs that the more you listen to, the more you get used to it, and the more you like it. And I feel like that's the exact same concept that goes with this entire album. And I feel like on Rate Your Music, it had like a 3.30, and now it's at like a 2.91. And the entirety of Life is But a Dream it's super weird, and I feel like the reason why I liked it so much at first is because I knew what I was getting into. I knew what stupid bullshit absurdity I was gonna get into, and I really like the outcome. Okay, I will admit there are a few songs in here that I think are kind of duds. Like, they're on a playlist, but I don't go back to them. From my recollection, those songs are the title track, Life is But a Dream, but honestly, I don't feel like too many people are going back to that song anyways. G, Certainly G and Death are. I'm not huge on those songs. I believe G is the really funky one. It's either that or D. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I don't know. I'm just not crazy about the songs. I can't remember them off the top of my head, unfortunately, so I can't give out direct criticisms. And when I do my Avenged Sevenfold ranking every song, I'll get way more in depth there. But G and Death, not my favorites. But like fucking Game Over, Mattel, Nobody, We Love You. I'm sure I'm forgetting a song. But Ordinary is fucking great. I don't get the whole watered down Daft Punk thing. It's just straight up a no, it is not. But those songs back to back, Game Over, Mattel, it's like the same. It's like a same case with Nightmare. Just fucking banger after banger after banger after banger. It's insane, and this album is so fucking creative, especially with the vocals. I think the vocals are way better than the stages, and that's because I feel like Matt kind of realized his that his vocal basically I think he realized that he can't do as much with his vocals as he used to, and the stage he was kind of pushing the boundaries. But in this album, I think he's perfectly reaching of what his boundaries are, and he's bordering it very nicely, so it doesn't sound like he's overdoing and overfucking his vocals. So, but yeah, Life is But a Dream. If it was here, I'd put it to I Wank to this one. I'm still, like, listening to it more and more and still fleshing out my full opinion. But I don't think I'm gonna